so moving on, guys, consider all options before making the decision. For example, quick turnaround time on hardware provisioning is needed. Then definitely you should probably, think about going to the cloud. So this slide is, when you're confused, should I go to cloud? Shouldn't I go to cloud, right? And you are it could be an architect or manager or, infrastructure manager. You come to a point where you say, we are sitting here on this data center. We got these many, hardware resources, which have already depreciated. Now, should I really go? How much is going to cost? The throughputs, right? So the turnaround time on hardware provisioning, right? So those are the things you need to constantly think about it, right, and discuss, right, as a team before you make that right decision, right? So make sure you consider all your options. No upfront cost for hardware is required. Pay only if I want to use the service. I don't want to have a big networking team either, right? So I literally got 3 guys, right? So one, he was a manager, and the 2 guys are pretty junior, and I got a pretty decent size infrastructure, right? Why? Because a lot of things that Amazon takes care of us, I really don't need any resources, right, for managing those. So that doesn't mean that the jobs are going away, right, with the advent of cloud, or reinvent, I should say, because I think the same concept existed way back, right, in 90s and 80s earlier, right? So you have those mainframes and stuff like that, which were pretty similar, right, because you were sharing the same CPU and memory. So the jobs are not going away, right? It's just the transition. You have to make sure you are keeping yourself up to date with all the changing technology. If you don't, then you will be way behind, right? There was one book, just want to reference to that. It's called What Got You Here Will Not Get You There. Goldman something, I forgot, I'm sorry, my apologies, I forgot the author's name, but What Got You Here Will Not Get You There. A very good book, right? So it talks about that, you have to make sure, if you're a technologist, and I'm assuming people who have joined are all technologists, they keep themselves up to date, right? With all the changing technologies, every month that you don't really keep up with the technology is going to keep you, push you back by maybe 6 months. By 6 months, you don't keep up with the new technology, you'll be a year behind, and so forth. That's what is talked about in that book, and I totally agree. So people who are not really up to date, who are into infrastructures and don't really care about the cloud, yeah, of course, I mean, I'm not talking 100%, but I'm saying then a lot of people may be left behind because they don't not aware of the cloud. So you want to make sure you are, aware of your, technologies, and make sure that you keep up with those technologies, right? So the reason I mentioned that is because that last item on the first bullet paragraph, don't want to have big networking team, does not mean people are going to go away, right? But it's the same saying for AI and ML. People are thinking, okay, all the jobs going to go away. No, it's going to be a constant fight, right? Obviously, you have to keep up with the new technology, but AI not going to start a third world war or something like that. But you have to make sure that you keep yourself up to date. So not big networking team does not mean that all the networking jobs are gone, but actually the network engineers, and they have to make sure they do that shift, they make that shift, and be prepared if there is a job opportunity, they all are ready for it. After deciding, you need to consider data in and out, right? So because the cloud provider do charge you how much data is coming in and out, right? So you want to make sure you are thinking of that. Serverless architecture, that's a beautiful thing, right, on Amazon. That is the Lambda services, right? That allows you to actually use the services at the time of execution, and boom, once the execution is done, calculated, the result comes back, you don't really have to keep the server up and running. We'll talk about the Lambda in details. And so think about when you're doing the cost analysis, saying, okay, well, this is my data in, data out, this many EC2 instance I need that needs to run all the time. And these are the serverless architecture I can go with, where I just need to serve this for a specific period of time. And after that, I don't really need the services. So think of Lambda service as well. Tags for services to monitor the cost. You may want to probably make sure that you have grouping of those services, right? So you say, okay, my HR department can use these services, my accounting will be using this, so that when at the end of the month when you're billing it, you will see how much it's going to cost total, right? The AWS calculator to predict the cost, it's already available at this location, calculator.s3 Amazon AWS.com, index.html. So you can search, Google it up, and then you'll see it. So this would actually give you a prediction of how much it's going to cost if you do go with Amazon, or I'm sure, if you go with the other cloud provider, they would have the similar calculator. You know how many services or how many servers you have on your premise, or maybe on your data center, and then you can easily do that conversion, and you maybe do some prediction of data in and out, and then also when you're doing that, then you start designing and architecting, right? So I myself is a solution architect, so when I was migrating, I said, you know what, I can probably take this service, this application, and maybe host it on serverless architecture on Lambda. What this does is basically it reduces the cost significantly of my EC2 instance that needs to run all the time, or maybe at a given time, right? But it's still, if somebody is coming, a user is coming into my site, and if they want to upload a file or something like that, instead of doing it on my EC2 instance, I can just push it off using SQS to the serverless architecture, where a Lambda service kicks in, does the job, uploads the images or Excel, whatever the huge file is, you do the processing, and that Lambda job is done. So this way you can predict your cost, right, and say, okay, based on my current hardware requirements, based on my applications, based on my memory that I would need and all that stuff, I'm going to pick and choose which servers I want. I'm going to use which services I want, and at the end of that calculator, you'll see, okay, this is going to be your monthly bill. A very nifty thing. I think I would highly recommend using that.